When you roll over in your sleep, across the ocean in the desert, every second sees dollars burning away, equivalent to a person's lifetime salary. The Middle East's night sky is once again illuminated by the flashes of explosions. In the early hours of March the 5th local time, Tehran released new combat updates. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced that their military operation, codenamed True Promise 4, had now entered its 19th round. According to Iranian sources, this round of strikes is no longer sporadic harassment but a coordinated campaign, what they call a joint package, involving missile and drone attacks on repeatedly targeted U.S. military bases and sites within Israel. This is neither a military exercise nor an empty threat. It represents another escalation after both sides pushed their stances to the limit. The list of targets in this round is extensive and significant. The U.S. military's Al-Udeid air base in Qatar was struck by ballistic missiles. This base is no ordinary facility. It stands as one of America's largest military outposts in the Gulf region, housing tens of thousands of U.S. troops, and serving as the nerve center of U.S. forces in the Middle East. Public reports and satellite imagery indicate that an $1.1 billion early warning radar system at the base was struck and damaged during the attack. The Indian Ocean also saw unrest, with the U.S. destroyer and a supply ship reporting hits approximately 650 kilometers off the Iranian coast, engulfed in flames. This is no longer mere retaliation. It amounts to thrusting a fist directly under the adversary's nose. Based on previous round statistics, Iran claims to have struck 27 U.S. military bases and multiple core targets of the Israeli military. From the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia to the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, satellite communication terminals and multiple buildings, they were destroyed in the attacks. In Kuwait, both the Riffian camp and Salam Air Base were struck. Videos circulating on social media showed drones flying directly into the military compounds before detonating. Near Erbil International Airport in Iraq, U.S. military facilities were repeatedly attacked. Satellite imagery revealed 4 buildings within the base either destroyed or severely damaged, with fires burning until the early hours of the following day. At Jebel Ali Port in the UAE, one of the U.S. Navy's most frequently used ports in the Middle East, thick smoke billowed from structures within the port area. The list of targets grows longer, the red dots on the map denser. U.S. military bases across the Middle East seem to be enduring a brutal, systematic interrogation. Behind this conflict lies an uncontrollable chain reaction. Lebanon's Hezbollah has entered the fray, striking military targets south of Haifa, Israel, with rockets and drones. Israel responded with airstrikes across Lebanon, causing heavy civilian casualties. In Yemen, Houthi forces are mobilizing in solidarity. Even in Oman, fuel tanks at the Duqm commercial port were hit by drones. This is the most terrifying butterfly effect in the Middle East. A building destroyed in Tehran can trigger an explosion in an oil depot thousands of miles away. Once this chain reaction begins, no one can easily halt it. This situation has indeed led many to believe the conflict has spiraled out of control. However, viewed from another angle, the trajectory of this conflict may not solely depend on who possesses greater firepower. On the very first day of operations, the U.S. military burned through approximately $779 million, and that's just a 24-hour expenditure. 2 carrier strike groups idling at sea cost nearly $100 million daily to operate. Those dozens of fighter jets crisscrossing the skies consume tens of millions in fuel and maintenance costs every single hour. A single Tomahawk cruise missile costs over 10 million yuan, while a bunker buster bomb exceeds 20 million yuan. Each small-scale airstrike, requiring just hundreds of missiles, can wipe out billions of dollars. Think tanks estimate that if this conflict lasts 30 days, the total cost to completely destroy Iran's nuclear facilities and missile bases could surpass 2 trillion yuan, exceeding the U.S. annual defense budget. What's even more troubling for the Pentagon is that Iran is employing a completely different approach. Their core tactic is asymmetric attrition warfare. The logic behind this strategy is straightforward. Use inexpensive weapons to deplete the enemy's costly ammunition. An Iranian Qasim-1 drone costs only about $20,000, and their stockpile is estimated to be as high as 800,000 to 1 million units, with production capacity of 500 more per month. In a pure attrition battle, Iran could deploy thousands of drones daily for over a month. The U.S. military now faces a dilemma: intercept or endure attacks. Intercepting costs $4 million per Patriot missile and $12 million per THAAD missile. Standard tactics dictate firing 2 missiles per target. If Iran launches a drone swarm worth $100 million, the U.S. military could spend $2 billion on interceptions. Without interception, these drones striking U.S. bases aircraft carriers, or Israeli territory would cause incalculable damage. This form of attrition warfare has a specific term in international military studies, the salvo competition. The contest is not about whose weapons are more advanced, but whose ammunition stockpiles are deeper. Israeli missile defense experts openly admit that 100% defense does not exist in the world. If a single missile strikes a target like a power plant or hospital, the resulting damage could be catastrophic. Historically, the duration of conflicts has often been directly tied to the stockpile of interceptor missiles available for air defense. Interceptors are never sufficient. Gulf nations are rapidly depleting their air defense ammunition reserves, and will soon face the choice of prioritizing protection for critical targets while abandoning others. Amid this stalemate, news emerged from Washington that President Trump plans to visit Beijing in late March. This timing is remarkably delicate, coinciding precisely with the conflict entering a critical phase. Some media analysts suggest Trump hopes to gain political capital from this visit. He faces a tricky situation, maintaining a tough stance in the Middle East while fearing being dragged into a war of attrition, given that economic issues form his core base. Reports indicate that to facilitate this visit, the U.S. has even made concessions on certain issues, such as suspending some arms sales to Taiwan, shelving restrictions on key technologies, and refraining from imposing new tariffs. Their hope is that China will help stabilize the situation, perhaps by influencing energy prices, maintaining supply chain stability, or even conveying a message to Iran to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. However, the international community's response has left the U.S. feeling somewhat isolated. Secretary General Antonio Guterres has issued a statement condemning the escalation of military conflict and emphasizing that lasting peace can only be achieved through peaceful means. The Arab League has also issued a warning, stating that this is the moment when the Arab-Israeli conflict could escalate into a full-scale regional war. Countries including Russia, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Senegal have spoken out, urging all parties to exercise restraint and resume dialogue. Even North Korea has weighed in, condemning the actions as outright aggression. The international community watches the unfolding conflict in the Middle East, awaiting the next developments while harboring widespread anxiety. If fundamental international consensus, such as the sovereignty of nations and the safety of leaders, can be shattered, how much of the existing international order remains intact? The 19th round of strikes has commenced. Whether a 20th or 21st round will follow remains unknown. Yet it is clear that every piece on the Middle Eastern chessboard is advancing, none willing to retreat. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Washington to the Persian Gulf Coast, all decision-makers have been drawn into this colossal war machine. For those outside the region, the news broadcasts more than distant conflicts. They track daily oil price fluctuations, global capital flight patterns, and the trembling hands of ordinary parents, covering their children's ears in underground shelters. May this land find space for a peaceful dinner table, and may the smoke of war dissipate sooner rather than later.